Hey, I'm Jonathan Saran. I'm going to be talking about Redux using React. So here I've set up a little React app, which is right now using state to just count how many times I've clicked this little spinner here or anywhere in the page. And I have it set up here in a component. This is just a basic React component, and it's handling that state change with this click handler, and it's all inside the component here. That is triggered on click. So everything here is happening inside the component state rather than with Redux. And I'm going to show you how we can switch it over to using Redux to where that count would be accessible from any other component in the app, and it can kind of be organized better and more globally using Redux. So to start, let's look at the source here. So I've got that demo inside this component folder, and I've made another folder for Redux, which is where I'll put all the components for Redux. But before that, let's take a look at app.js, which is actually right here. And to pass our whole state that we're going to create to all the child components of this provider, we just pass this store prop. So that everything inside of here, demo, if we were to put another component there, it would also have access to that store and where we're putting our state. And these are just components that come from React Redux, and this create store we'll take a look at now. So inside this Redux folder we have create store, which is going to grab some middleware for us. Thunk is just a tool that gives us a dispatch function, which I'll show you in a sec. To start, we just create the store using this create store function, pass it a reducer, and then also tell it to apply our middleware Thunk. Now to kind of talk about the reducer, let's go into reducers and see what happens there. Inside here we actually initialize our state, so this is where the count is going to be 0 starting off, and here is a reducer. You can see it takes the state, which will be the current state or the initial state, and an action. And an action has two properties on it, a type and a payload. The type will trigger what is going to happen to the state, and the payload will be kind of what gets uploaded to the state. And that's usually how those are structured. So now back to our folder. You might have saw the types there. That's just the type of actions that can happen, and these just kind of map and keep everything organized. It's just a string and a constant, so that things can be kept straight here in the reducer. Now let's take a look at what kind of actions can happen. So here again we grab our constant up, and we actually have this little function here which just returns our action object, which has, remember those two properties, type and payload. So this will just set the count when it comes through in our reducer. Now this function is actually going to be what we're using inside the components. We have dispatch and get state. We use get state to grab the current count, bump it up 1, and then we pass that new count to our set count. And this whole function right here just gets dispatched to our reducer. So it'll run through here and update our state. Okay, it's a little quick, but I'm going to put all this on GitHub so that you guys can see how it shakes out on your own time. And now we'll look at how this actually works in the components. So to tie it to each component, you have to have the connect function, which comes from React Redux again. What the connect function does is it ties two functions to each component that you want to be connected to the Redux state. One component is map dispatch to props, which takes those functions that you've been building, and we're grabbing that function here from our Redux folder actions, basic actions file, and just mapping it to a property right here that we'll use. So that's where we get this.props and apply up. And our count actually comes in right here. So we're just mapping that state from Redux to a property in our component. And we'll, instead of using state, we'll grab this prop right here, and now it'll show the count here. So this doesn't even need to be there anymore. This could be gone, but we'll just leave it commented out. And you can see now, there it's working, but it's working with React Redux instead of the component state. So again, this just helps out when you're trying to handle lots of components that all depend on the same state. And instead of passing it downward, which is a lot easier than passing it back up to parent components, Redux really helps out organize state for that kind of thing. So here we are at 5:35, and thank you so much for watching.